and it was, yeah, it didn't matter. And that's got to be the most devastating thing when they finally get the courage to come out and say, this person at these soda pop parties did this to me. I just woke up with my nuts in his mouth, whatever. And you tell the world, and there's no consequences, nothing happens. But I mean, then you have people like Woody Allen that adopted a girl and then married her, and it's not even spoken ill of about it. And he was friends with this person. And yeah, it's just Roman Polanski, another one. These producers and stuff. It's just, I'm shocked Weinstein went to jail, because usually they just do it and it's expected. It's just part of the industry. It's like they blame the girl too. Like, well, she took the job, so she wanted it enough, or she didn't have to do it, or she could let some other girl do it and get the job. Listen, she could already have a job and not get to keep it unless she does X, Y, and Z. It is a lot of pressure and coercion. I think Mel Gibson said it, but he goes, I don't care who you are. I don't care how strong you are. I don't care how strong your faith is, whatever. Living in LA in that scene in Hollywood, it'll affect you. It's cancerous. It will corrupt you. It will mentally destroy you.
So Connie's wondering the name of your book and how to get it. And I just looked at your store and it's not in there.
The store is just merchandise and stuff. The book's on Amazon. The most recent one is the Separation of Business and State, and it's all manner of topics and stuff about profiteering. And I've got another one called Welcome to the USSA, like the USSR, because that was all in the Bush regime and the crimes from that era. They're both pretty good. And there's another one that I co-authored with a whole bunch of other people called Why Peace. It's by Mark Gutman, but I'm in it. And I encourage you to, I don't get royalties from that one, but you should get that one. It's like 600 pages, but it's story after story after story with different authors. And Karen Kwiatkowski's in there. And a lot of people I've interviewed are also in that book. And you're getting anti-war stories, like what is called Why Peace, from everywhere, from Cambodia to Colombia, to the United States, to Britain, to Romania. You're hearing authentic stories about things that happen. And an interesting little tidbit about that book, there was an Iraqi from Fallujah who wrote a story, and a soldier, female soldier, and saw each other's stories in the book and met and got married.
Wow. Wow. Right. Question from M13. What is up with Roy Cohn being connected to Trump? I'm still scratching my head because Roy Cohn liked little boys.
He sure did. He liked the Sheen family in particular, from a certain aerospace company that owned the hotels that J. Edgar Hoover and Clyde Tolson used to visit and fellatio each other. If you want to know about, he died of AIDS, by the way, but he knew Trump in the early 80s. Kind of been overblown because what people did, I won't say who she is, but they mixed up Roy Cohn and Michael Cohen's biographies, which is stupid, and like attributed all this stuff that the other Cohen did to Roy that he didn't do, because this person is a moron that just copies work. But if you want to know about Roy Cohn and all about the Trumps for free, you can go to my website and watch Trump's Zionist Ball and Chain. And it goes all over the Kushners to the Cohens, the whole history of the weirdos around him, including Steve Witkoff and others, some of whom are in his administration now. But yeah, Cohen was of the mindset, like, never admit wrongdoing. Just lie forever. Never fess up, never confess, never apologize. He was a scumbag. And it was funny. Roger Stone said he's not gay because he only slept with young men. What does that mean? I mean, he's not a fairy. He's still homosexual. Like, you can be masculine and be gay. Like, it's not. Yeah, whatever.
You're getting asked for your thoughts on the Skull and Bone.
What about Skull and Bone?
Yeah, the society. What are your thoughts on it?
I mean, I don't like Skull and Bone. Obviously, it's one of these initiation clubs. They recruit out of colleges like Yale, for example. They have Skull and Bones Societies at more than Yale, though. And that crap started by grave robbing Native Americans. And apparently they even stole the skull of Geronimo. It was like, oh, murdering them off wasn't enough. Now let's desecrate the grave and steal the bones. Kind of sick stuff that goes all the way back to the Chivingtons, massacre at Sand Creek. And yeah, it derived into this basically like a little cult for mostly the sons of politicians and businessmen who would become the next. This is not a high level thing like APAC. Skull and Bones is like Bohemian Grove. It's on the ladder. It's on near the bottom. It's not nothing, but it's not. It's like a glorified frat house for the offspring of powerful people. But it is a stepping stone up in through. Then you get your Club of Rome, and then you go on and you go through all the various levels until you just retire at CFR or whatever.
So, Lorraine, why does Trump want Greenland? Is it because of Project Iceworm? Will Trump invade Canada? Love you both. Thank you for your hard work.
It's very interesting. Russia has 53 icebreakers. America had 2, and one of them broke. And the other one was basically sitting in dry port and got cannibalized for spare parts to fix the broken one, which is now broke again. They had one huge icebreaker instead of a bunch of, but America does 0. So Trump has made an order to build 40 of them. And I think the deal with Greenland is the rare earth metals. They know they're there. That's what he wants. I think the other thing is Greenland and the Arctic in particular are used for biolabs. In fact, the U.S. had, because if it escapes, it instantly dies because of the temperature, and there's no large populations around, so you're not going to have an Andromeda strain situation. I know researchers that work at the biolabs in the Arctic, and there's also one that the Americans abandoned that got encased in ice. So they have to go dig it out. So they're already there. So probably more of that. But the more pressing reason is for the rares.
Which ties into the next question from Curious Potato. The whole Ukraine situation depresses me. So this is how we do business now, by intimidation and invasion. It's always been like that, hasn't it, Ryan?
Yeah, I don't know why you say now. Like, it's sadly how it goes. And thing is, they're not intimidating because they're losing that war. And they tried to pull this stunt where they wanted a 30-day pause, but they didn't offer any guarantees of not continuing to arm and fund the side that's attacking Russia. And they're in Kursk. And Putin said, what are they going to do? Lay down and their weapons and leave? Or are they just going to surrender? Because otherwise we're just going to kill them. Because they are not going to sit in Russian territory for 30 days of peace inside Russia. That's not happening. And Russia does not consider itself inside Ukraine because the areas that they're in seceded and joined the Russian Federation. So that Donbass and Zaporozhye area and part of Kherson legally in their argument are Russian. So they're defending Russia. But they're in Russia proper. And Crimea too, they seceded. That's part of Russia. In the Kursk region, which is semi-circled right now, and Russia can destroy them anyway, they wanted to say, oh, time out, give us a month. Like, we're not going to give you a month to rearm and regroup and recruit and then say time in. Like, what do we get from that? We're winning. Of course, a ceasefire is good. Hostage exchange, prisoner exchange, and all those things could happen during a ceasefire. But if you really want a ceasefire, you have to offer something like, okay, we're going to stop arms shipments, or we're going to lift some economic sanctions. You got to have a carrot with the stick. Because what are you going to do? Continue the war and continue losing? Fine. It was a dumb move. They tried to pull the board. They tried to do what they did last time when Russia was winning really quickly in that war. And they said, time out, and Russia withdrew. They just started the war again. They're not going to get that. And Larry Johnson pointed this out, and he learned it from Andrei Martinyanov, who he's an American, he's from Russia, he speaks fluent Russian. there was and this is something you can only know if you had a Russian speaker. There's a part in his speech where he said, it's nuanced, and he kind of chuckled. Now in English, yeah, it's nuanced. Of course it's nuanced. It's a complicated situation. But in Russian, it's a play on words. But the way they say it's nuanced sounds like another phrase. And it goes back to this situation where the story is, this is fiction, by the way. There's a general and I don't know, a captain or something or a soldier. And the soldier asked him, like, sir, what is nuance? And he says, pull your pants down and bend over. And then he sticks it in him. And he says, you have a dick in you. I have a dick in you. The difference is nuance.
Oh gosh.
Because one,
Oh
you don't
wow.
quite, the way we both feel is the nuance. That's how it's like.
Oh.
So basically, Putin, when he said it's nuance, he's saying this is absolute ass fuck. I'm not doing this. Like, it was, but you could not know that from the way they translate it literally. You would need somebody like Andrei Martinyanov, great guy, good guy, guest to come on for Ukraine too. But who told it to Johnson, who wrote it in Substack, and that's where I read it. But
yeah, please put a word in with Andre for me. So Lorraine wants to know, what do you think will happen to Trump? It looks like they are destroying Elon. What are your thoughts? I've watched Tesla in the stock market.
I think they're making it stronger.
Get smashed in the last couple of weeks.
This is this is like attacking black people with dogs and hoses. Like, if you're just going to go around smashing cars and stuff, they will just continue to arrest you. I mean, he's got hundreds of billions of dollars. It doesn't matter. So he's making these Cybertrucks nearly indefensible, like indestructible, some of them. But yeah, you can Molotov cars and stuff, and you can chimp out, Antifa style, whatever, BLM, which had nothing to do with blacks, and Antifa had nothing to do with fighting fascism. This is just titles, right? They're just terrorist groups. Attacking car dealerships and stuff for what? Because Trump Elon is a Trump ally. Elon's a Trump ally. You can't resort to criminal behavior because you don't like the fact that the main thing that Elon is doing is cutting waste. They label it as aid, USAID, which is doing paper shredding and setting the files on fire, where they have it's a criminal organization. And you're seeing all these departments and stuff like, what'd you do this week? How did you spend this many $1 million on this bullshit? And it's just, if you listen to it, it's mind-blowing the utter crap the government has spent our money on that they shouldn't be doing. Like, okay, get rid of all that budget. You don't get to have that because you're just spending it on useless things. It's almost a creative contest to figure out the dumbest thing they could, like, dwarf hamster figure skating in Sri Lanka or something that I made up, but that is not far from some of the actual things they spent money on. Yeah. And so Elon has a point, and I disagree with Elon on a lot of stuff, but he has a point on this. The people who scream the loudest when you're cutting waste and fraud are the fraudsters, of course. And so, yeah, I see a stock dip there.
It went up to almost 500, and now it's almost back down to 200. So they've managed. It's been halved in the last couple of months. So, all right, next question is, what about the
halved, but it went
Obamas?
up, it doubled, and then went back to where it was.
Yeah,
so it's not really down.
buy on rumor, sell on news, the old classic.
Yeah.
All right, so what about the Obamas? Are all these deep state in beds, have they been deactivated now? Are they just poised, like the Clintons, etc.? Are they just poised for the next election to resurrect from the dead?
It always just flip-flops between the two major parties in the US, and they're all Zionists. So, Thomas Massey predicted it when he said the Democrats will roll over and pass the budget for the Republicans. Chuck Schumer's just doing kayfabe, if you know your wrestling. He's just doing kayfabe. They roll right over. It was like, they had like 63 votes. They had way more than they needed. They never really oppose one another on the major issues. When it comes to monetary policy and foreign policy, And even the border, as much as they mouth about it on the Republicans, the border is still open. The Fed is still there, and it won't be audited until the GAO is, like once in 11 years or something. There's still a genocide in Gaza. There's still like all this stuff because it just goes on and on. They ruined Syria. It's already happened. They're bombing Yemen now. They were bombing Yemen before. It doesn't change. It's just it's like different psychological branding to portion demographics within the public between Republican and Democrat, but you're just going to get the same policy. Now, that doesn't mean there are no differences. I'm glad we're away from team pregnant men and Latinx and all that crap. Like, thank goodness. I see this as a definite improvement from Genocide Joe. But don't be delusional and think Trump's gonna deport all the illegals and shut the border and end all the wars and be Ron Paul, because he won't. And even if he wanted to, he doesn't have the cabinet to do it. He doesn't have the Congress. Like, our society's rotten from the core. If we don't fix the media, you cannot get political changes, or you can't get political or social changes until you fix the press. Because if you're not holding people accountable for what they do, they'll keep doing it forever. They fear stories coming out and tanking the reputation, and then they can't be elected. And you see what the media is weaponized for, though? To go after people who challenge the system. It's designed to go after people who are a threat to the rot. So the Matt Gaetz, the Kavanaughs, the Tates, the Assanges, the people that speak truth to power, the Snowdens, good people saying good messages. None of them are 100% good, but they're fighting the system. They'll get drugged through the mud. Some of them exiled or jailed. But the Hunter Bidens and stuff, nothing. And they are guilty of everything they accuse that side of doing, this side is doing. The people that are actually R-wording kids, they're actually engaged in profiteering, warmongering, pro-torture, all that. Nothing. Look at Nancy Pelosi's insider trading, and then you're going to go after Tristan Tate for tax evasion or something. Bitch, please. Like, the level of theft openly from politicians that enter in with X amount and leave with, 2 magnitudes more. Come on. The corruption's right there. The problem is we don't have a functional press that can stay on a story for more than 5 minutes. It's like, this should be a story. Nancy Pelosi engages in insider trading. She can't explain how she had all these increases. And she ought to go to jail. Like, if journalists want to just stick on that and drive it home, but what would happen is they'd just get fired. It would never be on TV. The story wouldn't come out. This brothel case, you might read it because I've now said it, and to look for the Lees and some papers out of Boston and Fairfax, perhaps, and that's going to be that's it. Unless we, all of you watching, we make this a thing and keep asking questions about it. Like, the fix doesn't come automatically. You have to be proactive. You have to be part of the solution. And no one can fix it, but together we can fix it. It's like litter. No one can ruin the planet. Even if they threw all the trash their whole life on the ground, it wouldn't make a difference. But if everybody acted like that, it would be a disaster. We'd have Plastic Island, which we do. You got to do your part.
A question from Curious Potato. Isn't Ukraine just a land grab by Russia?
No, it's not just a land grab, because when Crimea is, first of all, the parts of Ukraine that are Russian were already Russian all the way until the 1950s. So from 1776 to 1952 and 1954, you had Crimea and the Donbass were Russian, part of Russia, spoke Russian, Russian culture, Russian schools, Russian laws, Russian money, Russian everything. The Ukraine was part of the Soviet Union, and Khrushchev awarded the Donbass region to Ukraine in the 1950s. Some people watching this show are older than that. They, by referendum, because they're in a civil war where Western Ukraine was attacking their people, and I mean homes, schools, hospitals, whatever they wanted, with artillery and missiles and snipers, tried to secede. And they asked the Russian Federation to join, and Russia told them no. So then they voted to become independent states, Luhansk and Donetsk. And they had their own flag and everything. And briefly, they were independent states. And Russia and Syria, a few states, they recognized their sovereignty. Only after you've got NATO trained troops, going to the border with Russia, and you have to realize from 2014 to 2022, 14,000 people in the Donbass were killed by Ukrainians. That's all before any Russians came in February of 2022. And it was when they broke the second Minsk Accord and started hitting the Donbass with heavy artillery. And this isn't like pop shots and full on going to civil war again. That 7 days after that, Russia entered the war. And then months later, those territories had referendums and seceded and joined